Welcome, everyone. This is Gwydion with RPG Frequencies, and today I'm going to be previewing a game called Morkin, the Lords of Midnight solo adventure game. Now, this is a Kickstarter that's launching this coming Thursday, May 8th. The author, Juan Diaz-Bustamente, was kind enough to provide me a preview PDF. I will assure you that I will be backing this. I've read through it. I've been speaking with Juan for the last several months as he's continued to work on this game, and it is right up my alley. So I will definitely be purchasing the hardcover of this game as soon as the Kickstarter launches. Now, before I jump in, a couple of things. This was based or is based on and inspired by The Lords of Midnight, which is a strategy and adventure epic fantasy game by Mike Singleton. Unfortunately, that's not a game that I've played, shame on me. But everything I've read, this got amazingly a critical acclaim as a role playing and strategy game of the 80s. So I will drop a link to that website, and this is it right here. But I will drop a link to that website. So if you do want to hear a little bit about the history, you can check out the history. But Juan has a really cool website that you can find out a lot of information now and follow some of his blogs, information that he has about the game, and he's released quite a bit. So I'll drop a link to his website as well to allow you to follow that. And also, Man Alone a few months ago did a great playthrough of a part of this game. So I'll see if I can link that in the description as well. But I would really encourage you to check out Man Alone's channel and also check out the playthrough he did. So here's the website. I'll let you flip through it, but again, you can see a lot of information on here to take a look at the game. So with that, I am going to switch over to the PDF, and this is always a challenging thing to do with a Kickstarter. I don't want to go through all of the PDF, but I do want to go through the first probably 30, 40 pages. I want to go through and show you what the game's about. I'm not going to cover things like events and spoilery type of things. So I'm going to try to keep it focused on the gameplay itself. So let's just kind of dive in. I love the cover. I love the black and white nature of the art. And I know I'll forget this if I don't say this now. But in addition to the PDF, he also has what he calls, I think, a handy sheet. It's about 30 pages of key things you need to know on character creation and tables and the like. So I believe that would be part of the Kickstarter as well. So let's just flip through here. It is dedicated to his wife Teresa and daughter Sophia, which near and dear to my heart. My youngest daughter's name is Sophia as well. All right. So I did want to page. The reason I wanted to flip through this and show you a bit of the credits is as I read through the game and looked at all of the mechanics and things that are make the game what it is, I did see a lot of nods to and influences by some of Alex T's games with Black Oath Entertainment, and you can see here that Juan does say that he draws inspiration from Carnathalis, Disciples of Bone and Shadow, Broken Shores, along with many other games all of those games are Alex T's games. Black Oath Entertainment would encourage you to check those out. I've heard of Barbarian Prince. EverQuest, I believe, is by Cesar Capical, and I purchased that one as well. Great game. So anyway, all these games, Perplexing Ruins. I love his gaming sheet, so take a look at those as well. But I love the influences, and I knew right away this would be a game for me. So let's kind of get through the table of contents, but you can see how massive this is. It's over 295 pages. And he does talk about this is in memoriam to Mike Singleton. Does talk about differences from the computer game. The computer game, I believe, was more of a war game and not a solo game. So he has done some things to adapt to this. I'm going to go kind of quickly. I don't want somebody just copying the PDF, but you're going to have dice, and you do have all the sheets you need with this. You'll be rolling D100s. This is a D100 under, for the most part, system. And he does mention that he would encourages you to create a journal. You're going to have maps with different types of terrain. I love how there's all types of not only terrain, but items and locations you can encounter: keeps, villages, lakes, caverns, ruins. So very deep. And that's one thing I would tell you is if you like crunchy games like I do, then I think this game's going to be right up your alley. If you don't like a lot of the real crunch, then I would encourage you to look at this, but know that there is a lot of detail to like combat and what you're checking and how you're tracking and critical hits, which frankly I love. So this game is going to be perfect for me. Love the art. So character creation. So it's gonna feel pretty familiar to you, I think, if you've played a number of other role playing games. But 4 key stats: strength, dex, intelligence, and charisma. I will say that, and this reminds me a little bit of D100 Dungeon, but you have 50 points that you're going to assign to the attribute that you want to be the strongest for you. 40 points to the second, 30 to the third, and 20 to the last. So that I feel like that's a little bit of a nod to D100, which I love that game as well. Skills, there are numerous skills that are based on all of your different stats. So you have things like animal handling, defense. Defense comes into play. Not only do you have defense, which is your skill in avoiding damage, but you also have a defense value, and that'll come into play as you look at combat and as you attack. You're not only going to need to roll under your attack value, but you're going to need to roll over a defense value, which is half of your defense, your enemy's defense score. There's other things I think that are cool. You've got fishing, you've got hunting. So a few things in here that are probably not something that you might be super familiar with. Orientation is important because you can get lost as you're exploring your the map and your hexes. So skill checks, once you've assigned your attributes that we talked about, you in your initial values, you can distribute an additional 50 points among the available skills. So all these skills that we just flipped through, and you can have a maximum of 60 points per skill in the beginning. Now, as you increase your character throughout the game, you can increase those values up to 80, but not above 80, absent. I think your companions can get that above 80, but in general, you're not going to go above 80. And when you do a skill check, you want to be equal to or less than that value. If you have an opposed skill check, then you're going to roll against your skill. The opponent's going to roll against their skill. And then if there is, for some reason, you both succeed, the lower score will win. And if there's a tie, Morkin wins. Tie goes to Morkin. So masteries, you're going to choose a specialization. There's a number of different types of specializations. Everything is a melee combat here. There's not range that I've seen, but you do have a number of ways with these masteries to make Morkin unique to you. And you'll have health points, you'll have defense values, and that's what I was referring to earlier. Your defense value is half of your defense skill, rounding down if necessary. And that's your ability to like draw a block, dodge, or evade. It's really important when it comes to combat. And then you'll have fatigue bandages. You need to have bandages in order to heal. Rations are important. You'll have lock picks. And there is an encumbrance system. I didn't look at this super detailed, but I like the fact that it appears to be items based, which I'm much more of a fan of. So character progression, whenever Morkin defeats an enemy, he earns XP. And you record that on your sheet. Every 20 XP, you can increase an attribute of your choice. And also, this might come into play later. I just finished reading through the entire book, which PDF, I should say, which is awesome. And I know that when you have certain roles, I think when you have certain critical successes, I believe you can immediately increase your skill. Let's see if it says this here. This is related to just the XP increases. So I'll have to see if I found that later. But I know that if you have a critical success, you do get to increase, I believe, one of your skills. So we'll see if we get into that. Here we go. The next session. So whenever you roll below a 5 on a skill check, so remember, this is a roll under, so you're rolling a D100. So if you roll a 1 through a 4 on a skill check, that's a critical success. And you can immediately increase the relevant skill by 1 point, again, up to a maximum of 80. Now, it works a little bit different in terms of combat or attack value. So the melee and defense skills can be increased. If you get a critical roll during an attack, then you can choose to increase either your melee or your defense skill by 1. So the flow of play, I'll touch on this just a little bit, but you're going to track days and quarters on an adventure sheet that comes with the game. So there's basically 4 aspects of the day or 4 quarters of the day. And in the beginning, and this comes into play later, you're going to check the weather, check any conditions that you and your companions may have, and check the ice fear level, which is something that I believe you're immune to. And if you're not completely immune, I know it doesn't affect you quite as much as it does your companions, but depending on the fear level that is encompassed in the land, it does have consequences to certain roles, certain interactions that you have with NPCs. So you'll start a new quarter, you'll choose an action, and we'll go through the actions a bit. You're going to have some checks at nighttime. But the weather, I really like what he's done with the tables. So you're going to start your weather each day. In general, you might just have a little bit of flavor, cloudy, windy, rain, but there are some instances like heavy wind or heavy snow that could really affect your travel and your skills if you are outdoors. And you do have the option or the ability, if it's clear, you get a bonus to your orientation, which I think is cool because that is important. Really, kind of as you're exploring your hexes, you could get lost and not travel to the hex that you're looking to travel to. So you do have different conditions. So here's the Ice Sphere, which is a chilling wave of terror unleashed by Doomdark from the Ice Crown, sweeping across the land. And that does grow. There is a time limit on the game, and you'll have 30 days to defeat the evil that is in the land. So the Ice Sphere starts at level 1. You'll track it on your adventure sheet. Every day you'll tick it off. And every 10-day period, it increases 1 level. So again, there are quarters of the day, morning, afternoon, evening, and night. You have different actions that you can take, but you can only take 1 action per quarter of the day, which you can see here, a number of different types of actions. Some are only available at certain locations or at certain times of the day. So a cool little flow chart that's simple, but I love these kind of flow charts that help you understand kind of how to go through your interactions. So you'll be camping at night, and that's part of how you will do some of your recovery. You'll have to consume a ration, and there's certain actions like approach where you can potentially recruit a character if there is a recruitable character present. So it's not always the case. So this action can only happen on occasion. I love this, and actually, as I understand it, the actual hardcover book will be, I believe, black pages with white offset. And I'm a big fan of that. The Darkest House did that, and I really like that from Money Cook Games. So I really like that he's doing that, and I can't wait to buy that. But this gets into a little more about camp. And again, if you have a critical success, you get more recovery. So I like that there's a lot of crunch to this, and I really enjoy that. So there's modifiers to camping. So again, you'll have in this case, there's a positive and negative. You gain +10 when the weather's clear, which I think is a really cool benefit you don't always see in games like this. And then negative, you suffer -20 if there's heavy snow or wind. So there's and you can see the other thing I think he does it's really cool for, I think most of the activities that I saw is if you have I believe it's if you have a critical failure, or maybe it's just a failure actually. If you fail, then you roll on a trouble table. So in this case, if you fail your camping check, you roll on the camping trouble table. And even though he has the camping trouble table here, he also has all of the tables in the back, which I love. I love the fact that he's done both. So you can fishing, and again, fishing has its own trouble table, foraging, hunting, resting. So you don't rest at night because you're camping at night, but you can rest to try to reduce your fatigue during the day. You can seek. So if you're at a certain site or location, you can try to discover hidden objects and look at a seek table. You will be traveling quite a bit as one of your actions, and you're going to attempt to move to a hexagon adjacent to your current location. you're exhausted, you can't travel. And depending on whether or not if you have a horse, then that will impact your travel distance. I might have flipped past that, but I know Morkin starts with a horse. And I believe as long as all of your, either you and your companions have a horse, I believe you can travel up to 3 hexes a day. Yeah, and it shows that right here. Again, cool art. So there are different, there are penalties, so to speak, if you were walking or on horseback in different types of terrain, like mountains are going to be more challenging than plains and what have you. And then again, you will make an orientation check as each hexagon that you're looking to leave and go into your next hexagon. And you'll get, again, a little bit of a benefit, positive or negative, depending on the weather. And if you fail the check, you're going to roll a d6, and you definitely will not go where you wanted to go. You'll either go west, east 1 square, or you might stay in the square that you were trying to leave. Critical success and fumbles, again, when you're looking for your orientation. There's encounters, events, the ice sphere, based on if you enter into a new hexagon, even if you've explored it, you might need to encounter a Doomdark encounter. So again, I'm trying to flip through here relatively quickly, so I'm not giving you a ton of spoilers. Exploring caverns and runes, there's a whole table in the back on runes and exploration table, which is, again, I think really cool, the amount of detail he's put in this game. There's a whole cavern and ruin exploration sequence. Love this image. And this is all about the cavern and ruins. So companions. So you might have the opportunity to recruit a companion during your adventure. And I think the original game, you would actually recruit armies. So the way that Juan has adapted this game is you're going to be recruiting their lord, not the army. So it's going to be an individual. And you arrive at a special site, you're going to look for that site table, and there may be somebody present there that you can recruit. So you can go into the companion recruitment and management, and depending on the ice sphere level, it could be more challenging to recruit certain companions. Again, love all the tables here. Combat and damage. So again, combat, close range, there's not cover. So I kind of like that. It makes it a little simpler, but still crunchy. And you're going to be taking turns attacking until one flees or is defeated. You can flee, but in general, there's not parlay that I've seen. And you can't, if you want to flee before combat, you're going to be doing an opposed skill check, your stealth against perception. Initiative, you're going to be doing an opposed perception check, and this goes through all of the detail behind that and what happens and who goes first. Then you'll have combat order, action points. So I love, again, the crunchiness. You have 10 action points that allow you to be pretty strategic and creative. They don't carry over, so obviously you want to use them all on your turn, or at least try to. You can combine actions in a single turn as long as you have enough points. So you could switch a weapon and assist a companion. There's all kinds of things you can do, as you can see here. Standard attack is six action points. You can drink a potion for 2. First aid check, assist a companion. Dodge and defend, though, you have to think about that, because that does affect and cost you action points. So when you're attacking, as I mentioned early on, you're going to roll a d100. You want to roll a number equal to or below your melee skill check to succeed, but then the attacker, you must also roll higher than half of the defender's defense skill, which is the defense value. So basically, you want to roll under your skill, but you also want to make sure you're rolling above the defense value. So there are critical hits, and I love there's critical hits. Consequences, if Morkin rolls less than 5. I believe there are fumbles. Yep, there's fumbles. So if you roll a fumble would be, let's see, I believe that's going to be like a 96 through 100. I don't want to stop this to, oh yeah, if you roll 100, excuse me. So if you roll 100 on a melee skill check, it's a fumble. And again, you can flee in combat. Damage, in general, is you're going to roll the weapon's damage die, but there might be a reduction to that if the defender has any type of gear, and you'll know that there'll be a reduction to that damage value if there's an absorption value, which is essentially the skill or the score for the armor that someone might be, or I guess if they have scales or anything that could reduce damage from your attack. And some enemies might have multiple strikes. If you're near death, you lose your horse. So if you're less than 10 HP as a result of combat or accident, Morkin loses his horse. Assume that the horse has either fallen or fled in battle. And if any combatant, including Morkin, has their health points reduced to 0, you die. It's over. Game over. None of this saving throws, none of this other stuff. You dead. So I actually, again, for a game that's a bit on a timer, because you only have 30 days, I think that's important. I mean, death needs to be real, in my opinion. So healing, if you're getting low, you can try to do a first aid skill check. I believe you have to have a bandage, though. One bandage for each member of your group. But again, there's some cool nuances here. If you roll a critical success, not only can you heal your companions, but also yourself. And there's a few things you might find that can be added to the bandages to give some additional benefits, some herbs that you might find. There's a few conditions. So if you don't eat during the day, you should be eating at the end of a day, a ration. And if you or a member of your group grows without food for a day, you become hungry. You gain fatigue if you don't eat. 2 days without food, a companion will stop joining in combat. Their bonuses won't apply. So there's some real impact to growing hungry. You can become exhausted, and in that case, you can't move or travel, poisoned, bleeding. And then we get into the start of the adventure. So I am not going to go through this. In fact, I know somebody could pause that, but I'm going to go to the Bestiary table. And all I want to go through here, I'm going to go through one of the monsters just to show you a bit of what you expect to see. I think it's a Bloodwing is the one I am going to look for. So let me see if I can get through here. There we go, Bloodwing. So each creature, and I believe there's a total of 50, if I did my math right, and that includes some very unique bosses. So I think there's about 50 different monsters you're going to incur. And from everything I saw, they all have really cool art. So this is a Bloodwing. It's a huge, terrifying bat with a wingspan of over 3 meters. His body covered in blue-black fur that glistens like frost in the moonlight. Its eyes are piercing and gleaming white, while its fangs and claws are coated with razor-sharp ice. The wings are semi-translucent and streaked with icy veins, allowing it to glide silently through the cold night air. Bloodwings are known to attack in packs, descending upon their prey in a whirlwind of ice and darkness. That gives me everything I need as a solo player to really feel like I'm there and engaging with this monster. I love that. It's really descriptive. And so here you're going to see that all will have hit points, melee stat, defense value, which again is going to be half of the defense, perception, and then XP should you defeat these. And then I love the damage tables, and I see these in games like Dragonbane now, Carnithalis. I love that it makes it easy as a solo player. You're going to roll and determine what this monster does. And then it has its own critical hit and fumble tables, which is awesome. And loot. So is there any loot that comes with this? So that's the only one I'm going to go through, but just know there's about 50 of these. Then you're going to get into your tables. That's one of the last sections here. But if you look at the tables, there's camping trouble, companion tables, counters, equipment. And then the equipment, let me just pause on that for a second. So if you're buying armor, for example, I believe the way this works is you've got 3 different categories. You can see this is the absorption value. This is the amount that will be reduced from incoming attacks. So if your charisma, as I understand this, is above 30, then you're going to be paying this lowest value here. If your charisma is 30, let's see, think if it's above 30, if it's between, as I understand it, 21 and 30, I think you're going to be in this middle column. So you're going to be paying kind of roughly middle of the road, nothing, you don't have a discount, you don't have a premium. And then I believe with If you're at 20 or below, and this is buying, it does also talk about selling here, but I think if you're below 20 charisma buying, you're going to pay this highest rate. So I'll check with Juan on that, but I think that's what these tables mean. So again, all kinds of tables, event tables, fishing troubles, potion, all kinds of different tables. So let's go into the character sheet. I love the fact that it's just one page. I've already printed this out and laminated it. You've got your 4 main attributes up top. You've got all your skills down here. You can put your values and your bonuses. You've got your hit points, both max and current, defense value, fatigue. And then I think this would be where you write in the number of bandages, rations, lockpicks, and coins that you have. And then you can tick off or put a token on if you print this out and laminate it, what conditions you might have. And then you have in your backpack, you can carry 10 items. So really simple for encumbrance, which I love. So gear, you can write that down. And I think you can have one piece of gear per location, i.e. helmet, armor, shield, cloak, amulet. And you can write down the absorption value, any bonus, and any companions that you have. And I believe their bonuses count towards your attacks as well. Adventure sheet. So again, we talked a bit about Ice Sphere, so you can track your days and tick these off. And you can note what did you roll that day when you determine the weather, so you know, are there any effects for that entire day? You can put a token on, again, which quarter of the day are you in and what action did you take for the morning, the afternoon, evening, and night. And then there's a battle board, so you can put your companions in here and their hit points and what have you, as well as the enemies to track the critical aspects of the enemies. And then finally, the map. This will, I think he had mentioned to me in an email that he's still working on a high quality vision and view of the map. So that's it. I'm going to turn this one off for a second and go back to the main screen. And of course, I should everything except what I wanted to show, which was, there we go, Morkin. So look, probably no secret, I'm going to be backing this from day one, and this is a game that just, again, looks really crunchy to me, right up my alley. He's done a ton of work to prepare for this. He's been releasing blogs, so a lot of detail about what you're going to find in the game, how combat works, named enemies. So I would encourage you, even before the game launches, which again, I believe it's Thursday of this week, and I'm not sure if he'll launch a preview that you can click on and be ready to go for Thursday. But yeah, I would encourage you to check it out. Drop a comment. If you have any questions, anything I can help with, let me know. Like the video and yeah, check it out. Again, Morkin, the Lords of Midnight Solar Adventure by Juan Diaz-Bustamente. And really appreciate him making this available to me. And I hope you all check it out. Thanks, everyone. Until next time.